Part 154. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1531. Just like that, the parents of the four boys arrived one after another. One of them was Su Maixiang, just as Feng Qingxiu expected. The other three were two older middle-aged women and a middle-aged man. As soon as the middle-aged man entered the door, he shouted in a loud voice, "Teacher Zhao, what trouble did my little boy get into again?" Teacher Zhao had already heard from Principal Mo that Feng Qingxiu had only arrived in the army yesterday and she should not have been familiar with the environment yet, so he introduced her, Mother Lu Tianhui, this is Comrade Yes Yangqian, Ye Yan's father. This is Shenfeng's mother, Comrade Su Maixiang, the two in blue gowns are Zhou Fei's mother, Comrade Peng Aiheng, and the one in grass-green gown is Su Sheng's mother, Comrade Ding Min. Peng Aiheng is fatter and shorter, while Ding Min has a tall and thin figure, which is easy to distinguish, but they have the same thick hands and feet. Compared with Su Maixiang, who is well-dressed and hair-sprayed, she is quite inconspicuous. Feng Qingxiu greeted them one by one, "Hello, comrades, I am Lu Tianhui's mother, Feng Qingxiu." Ye Qianqian immediately saluted a military salute, "Hello, Comrade Qingxiu, I often hear my parents mention you. I originally wanted to wait until you and your children have settled down, but I will bring my brat to visit you in 2 days. I didn't expect that today because I'm really sorry that my brat caused trouble. Didn't you scare little Fuebao?" Upon hearing this, Feng Qingxiu's mind turned and she took a hint from his name, Ye Qianqian, you are too polite. Are Comrade Ye Zhenjun and Comrade Guo Kui okay? Yes, Yangqian is the eldest son of Ye Zhenjun and Guo Kui. I heard before that he was in the capital military district, but I didn't expect that he was in the Wuchen army. Yes, Yangqian is in his 40s this year. It is said that he suffered a lot when Ye Zhenjun was in trouble and was dismissed from his post. His wife divorced him at that time and gave him his only son, who should be the one in front of him. The unruly Ye Yan was gone. Yes, Yangqian smiled and said, "We just contacted him some time ago. They are all good. My dad has also been promoted." He wanted to thank Feng Qingxiu for helping his family when they were in trouble. If Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu hadn't sent them some food stamps from time to time, he and Ye Yan would not have survived until their father was reinstated, but he was afraid for causing unnecessary trouble to Feng Qingxiu. She didn't say a word of thanks, but instead patted Ye Yan on the head, "You brat, what are you doing standing there in a daze? Why don't you hurry up and call someone?" "Hello Aunt Lu." Ye Yan's expression was indifferent, but his mouth was sweet. He bowed when he spoke, "Aunt Lu, you are too young. You don't look like Lu Tianhui's mother at all. I almost thought you were Lu Tianhui's sister." His attitude was very close, and now he was acting like a good boy. Although Lu Zhang and Ye Zhenjun were friends, Feng Qingxiu was used to calling Guo Kui's sister-in-law, but Zibao often called them grandparents, and Yes Yangqian and Lu Zhang were almost the same age and were in the same army. Ye Yan called them this. There was nothing wrong with her. Feng Qingxiu smiled back and said, "Hello, classmate Ye Yan, Lu Tianhui and I are mother and daughter. It's true that we are fake." Su Maixiang ignored the content of their chat. When she saw her son with a bruised nose and face, she felt extremely distressed. She said rudely to Teacher Zhao, "My son is here to go to school. Why did you beat him?" Teacher Zhao had more contact with Su Maixiang and knew her character well. He said seriously, "As a teacher, I didn't hit him." Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1532. Su Maixiang pulled her son forward and said unhappily, "I didn't beat him, so why is he injured all over? Look, his body and face are covered with bruises and bruises. The injury is on his body, but it hurts on me. This is my mother's heart. This is why I invited all the parents to come." I can't bear the reputation of beating students. Teacher Zhao told the whole story in a few words. Lu Tianhui has already said that we can all play together. I asked the students in the class, other classmates and her desk mates could prove that Lu Tianhui did say that. However, Ye Yan, Shen Feng, Zhou Fei and Su Sheng refused to give in. They all wanted Lu Tianhui to only play with them and reject each other, so they took action. The fist caused this situation. Who made the move first? Ye Qian asked. Teacher Zhao was stunned and replied, it was so chaotic. The students in the class didn't know who started the fight. They just knew that they started fighting over a disagreement. When I arrived, we had beaten each other until our noses were bruised and our faces were swollen. Yes, Yang Qian asked Ye Yan, to be honest, did you do it first, or did someone else do it first? This question is related to how he punishes his son. Ye Yan reluctantly said, Shen Feng pushed me first and pushed me to the top of the table. I was in great pain and couldn't help but hit him. Zhou Fei and Su Sheng came to help Shen Feng. Why did you hit me and I hit him later? Yours, that's not clear. Yes, Yang Qian was about to criticize his son and apologize to Shen Feng and Su Maixiang with his son, but Su Maixiang got angry. Why do you beat my son? Ye Yan, who gave you the courage to beat my son? Can you afford to pay for hurting my son? Su Maixiang rushed over and pointed at Shen Feng's nose. Her nails were very long. The pointing was not quite right. Seeing that the long fingertips almost poked Ye Yan's eyeballs, Feng Qingxiu quickly stretched out her hand to block it. Comrade Su Maixiang, please calm down and don't poke the child in the eye, Feng Qingxiu said seriously. Ye Yan is a young child and has done something wrong. The responsibility lies with his parents. You can settle the score with Comrade Yes Yang Qian. Feng Qingxiu has always believed that a child is a blank slate when he is born, without distinction between good and evil, and depends entirely on the upbringing of his parents. Before the child reaches adulthood, parents need to bear all the consequences caused by the child. Of course, children are also responsible, but the consequences must be borne by the parents. Su Maixiang withdrew her hand, but did not dare to speak harshly to Feng Qingxiu. She looked at Ye Yan angrily, then turned to Ye Qian and said, Comrade Ye Qian, how do you think this matter should be resolved? Come on me for everything, don't look for my dad. Ye Yan stood in front of Ye Qian, still looking unruly. You bastard, get to the back. How can a child interrupt when an adult is talking? Ye Qian patted his head, turned his son around, strode forward, and said to Su Maixiang, since it was my son who moved first, the responsibility lies with me, the father, and I will severely criticize him and educate him. Comrade Su Maixiang and Comrade Shen Feng, I would like to express my most sincere apologies for myself and my son. As he spoke, he put his feet together and solemnly performed a military salute. Su Maixiang curled her lips, that's easy to say. Who will be responsible for my son's injuries? Yes, Yang Qian said without hesitation, of course we will send it to the hospital for treatment. It will not leave any sequelae for the child. I am also willing to compensate for some nutritional expenses, including Comrade Zhou Fei and Comrade Su Sheng. Take full charge of. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1533. Zhou Fei's mother Peng Aiheng and Su Sheng's mother Ding Min waved their hands at the same time. They were on good terms. Finally, Ding Min said, No, Mr. Ye, our children caused such a big trouble. You didn't hold them accountable for beating Ye. Comrade Yan's responsibilities are already very generous. How can I ask you to compensate for the nutritional expenses? Just go to the hospital and ask the doctor to deal with it. Yes, Mr. Ye, how can a child not fight? Fighting is never a person's responsibility. As long as the arms, legs and head are not injured, it is a trivial matter. Peng I-hung also continued, with an embarrassed look on her face, and turned to face Yayan. I also have to apologize to Comrade Yayan for Zhou. Comrade Yayan, I'm sorry. Yayan said nothing and stood behind Ye Qian so coldly. Facing him like this, Peng I-hung was a little embarrassed, and Ding Min felt uncomfortable all over because they asked the children immediately after they came to the office. They were indeed helping Shenfeng spank Yayan. They didn't know why. There was a melee, and Shenfeng and Yayan received many punches from them, and they also received many punches from Shenfeng and Yayan. Yes, Yang Qian took all the responsibility on himself and did not hold their son accountable for the beating. They felt very sorry. Yayan, what's your attitude? Didn't you hear what Aunt Zhou said? Yes, Yang Qian yelled loudly. I heard it, I accepted it. Are you satisfied? Why do you put all the responsibility on my father? Yayan said angrily, glared at Zhou Fei and Su Sheng, and finally turned to face Su Maiziang said, how much do you want? Don't you just want money? I will pay you all the New Year's money my grandma gave me. Why are you kid talking? Su Maiziang was a little unhappy. Ye Qian suddenly had a headache. Yayan, shut up. Comrade Su Maiziang, don't care about children. Naturally, I, the father, should be responsible for the nutritional expenses of the 3 children. Su Maiziang's complexion improved. The next step was to send the child to the hospital for treatment. Since the incident started with Fu Bao, Feng Qingxiu pulled Fu Bao and followed him. Both Zhou Fei's mother and Su Sheng's mother said that just applying some liquid would be enough, but Su Maiziang was different. The doctor asked Shenfeng to do a full-body examination, including his head, limbs, liver, intestines, stomach, and lungs. He only had to pull out his hair for surgery. Checked. Fortunately, military hospitals are free of charge, otherwise Yes Yang Qian would definitely lose money. No, Yes Yang Qian still lost money, and Su Maiziang Lion asked for 100 yuan for nutritional expenses. My son was seriously injured and needs to be repaired. Before Yayan got angry, Ye Qian hurriedly opened his pocket, but failed to take out 100 yuan. Feng Qingxiu quickly took out 100 yuan from his pocket and handed it to Ye Qian, who handed it to Su Maiziang. Su Maiziang left with her son with satisfaction. Both Zhou Fei's mother and Su Sheng's mother felt embarrassed and quickly took their children to leave. In this case, there is no need for Fu Bao to continue taking classes. Feng Qingxiu told teacher Zhao, who accompanied them to the hospital, to take Fu Bao home. Yes Yang Qian took Yayan with them. After walking out of the hospital, Yes Yang Qian kept asking Feng Qingxiu and Fu Bao apologize, it's all the trouble caused by me, little Fu Bao. Fu Bao, can I apologize to you on Yayan's behalf? Fu Bao shook his head and waved his hand, saying, Uncle Ye, it's not you who did the wrong thing. You don't have to say sorry. Just don't let Yayan fight in the future. Those who fight are not good boys. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1534. After listening to Fu Bao's words, Yes Yang Qian couldn't help but said, Fu Bao is so good, Yayan, you should learn from Fu Bao. Is your name Fu Bao? Isn't your name Lu Tianhui? How did you become Fu Bao? Yayan didn't care at all how scary his ointment-smeared face looked, and asked Fu Bao curiously. As a child, anger comes and goes quickly. No matter how unruly Yayan is, he is still just a child under 10 years old. Fu Bao said seriously, Lu Tianhui is my first name, and Fu Bao is my nickname. Also, Yayan, Uncle Ye is talking to you. You should finish answering Uncle Ye before talking to me. This is polite. Yayan was stunned. Just as Yes Yang Qian was about to speak, he heard Yayan whisper, I'm sorry, Dad, Have I caused trouble for you? Shenfeng's mother is so shameless. You can buy a lot of things with 100 yuan. Grandma only gives him 1 yuan of lucky money every year, but Su Maiziang actually wants 100. Yan, Dad is very satisfied if you are doing well. Dad's biggest wish in this life is to see you grow up healthily and become a useful talent to the country. Money is not a problem. You can make more money after you spend it. You can't be so rude to Comrade Su Maiziang. You can't shirk your responsibility for anything. Dad goes to work and you go home and think carefully about how to write a self-reflection letter and give it to me. Qian touched it. His head didn't let his son pass just because the matter had been resolved. Yan said dejectedly, I know, Dad, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken action first. I should have let the teacher find out the harm Shenfeng caused me by pushing me, and then criticize him. Feng Qingxiu interrupted, Comrade Yes Yangqian, are you letting Yan go home alone? Yes, he has been going to and from school by himself since he was a child. There is no danger in the compound. When I am not at home, he eats at the neighbor's house. Yes Yangqian replied, I spent 2 hours for this brat. I have to go back quickly. Feng Qingxiu looked at Yan, who was about the same size as her own daughter, and said, let Yan go to my house. You can pick him up at night. How willing is Qian to let a child stay at home? If you eat at a neighbor's house, won't you feel like you're living under someone else's roof? It can easily have an impact on a child's childhood. Thank you, sister-in-law. Yes Yangqian was not polite at all. Wang Quilin saw Feng Qingxiu going to school, and besides Fuebao, she brought back a strange child. What happened? You were called to school in a hurry? Why is Fuebao back? It's not time for school to end, right? The small matter has been solved, Feng Qingxiu replied and said to the triplets, here, let me introduce a new brother to you. The triplets were playing in the mud in the yard. They raised their heads and said, hello, brother. Fu Bao introduced to Yan, that's my younger brother, Dun Dun, Erxian, and Zhuang. Hello, Yan was polite at this time. Whose child is this? Wang Quilin asked. Feng Qingxiu took the 8 treasure box and came out to ask Yan to wash his hands and eat something, and replied, he is the son of Comrade Yes Yangqian, the grandson of Comrade Ye Zhenjun and Comrade Guo Kui. Wang Quilin understood immediately that it was no secret that Yes Yangqian was implicated by his father and divorced his wife. Feng Qingxiu also knew that Yes Yangqian probably had a child that he failed to keep, and she didn't know if it was because of Ye Zhenjun's influence. Yan lost his mother, and Yes Yangqian was busy at work. Feng Qingxiu could not help but feel pity for him. She treated him very kindly. When Yes Yangqian came to pick him up at night, he actually didn't want to leave. Next, you can write with peace of mind. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1535. Yes Yangqian was surprised. He knew his son very well. Although he often ate at the neighbor's house, he was not very close to the neighbor. When he was not at home, he would go back to his own house to sleep. Unexpectedly, in just half a day, he just wanted to stay in the Lu family. He had always known that Lu Zhang and his wife were kind-hearted, but it would be better than he imagined if they could make his son let down his guard. Yan, don't you come with me? I'll stay with you at home tonight, Yes Yangqian said. He was usually very busy and often rested in the military dormitory. Every time he came home, his son would feel happy. Yan was watching Fuebao's painting, and he was very focused on it. Without looking back, he waved to Ye Qian behind him, Dad, you can go home by yourself. I had dinner at Aunt Lu's house, and Auntie also taught me I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to school with Fu Bao tomorrow. I won't let Fu Bao play with that bad guy Shenfeng. He took off Gu Xiaolin's pants and is a gangster. Upon hearing this, Lu Zhang, his wife and Yes Yangqian became serious at the same time. Even though he is a child, taking off a girl's pants is a hooligan behavior and must not be tolerated, otherwise he will easily become a big hooligan when he grows up. Feng Qingxiu squatted in front of Ye Yan and said softly, "Yan Yan, is this the reason why you prevented Shenfeng from approaching Fu Bao during the day?" After returning home, she asked her daughter carefully. It was Shenfeng who asked to play with her first. Ye Yan stopped him. The two of them didn't see Wang. Shenfeng pushed him. He hit Shenfeng. The other two came up to help Shenfeng. This led to a scuffle. The rest of this had already been told by Ye Yan during the day, but Fu Bao still repeated it to his mother. Ye Yan focused all his attention on Fu Bao's paintings. After hearing Feng Qingxiu's question, he paid some attention to Feng Qingxiu and nodded, "Shenfeng is a gangster. You can't play with him. He also likes pulling the female classmates' pigtails." Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but hug Ye Yan. He was as old as Fu Bao. If he hadn't seen Shenfeng take off Gu Xiaolin's pants with his own eyes, then he wouldn't have made something out of nothing. He was too young to make something out of nothing. "Thank you, Yan Yan, I will rely on you to protect Fu Bao from now on when he goes to school," Feng Qingxiu said. Ye Yan patted his chest and said, "Auntie, don't worry, I will protect Fu Bao and prevent that bad guy Shenfeng from getting close." Fu Bao said sweetly, "Thank you, brother Yan Yan." After Yes Yangqian came to visit, he talked about his age. Ye Yan was half a year older than Fu Bao. Although Fu Bao is young, Feng Qingxiu taught her when she was very young that no one is allowed to take off her clothes except her mother, and she is not allowed to be undressed in front of others, so she knows very well how to take off girls' pants. Shenfeng is a gangster. Ye Yan was happy to receive Fu Bao's thanks. He was happy, but Yes Yangqian was embarrassed. What kind of thing was his son staying at someone else's house? Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Comrade Yes Yangqian, you're welcome. If Ye Yan likes our family, just stay here. It's just an extra pair of bowls and chopsticks. And I heard Ye Yan say that you don't even care when you are busy with tasks. How can this be possible after sleeping with him for many days? He is still a child. How can a child have no one to take care of him? I go to and from school with Fu Bao as my companion during the day." Ye Qinqin's dark face turned a little red, thinking that he had an important task in a few days and would not be home for about a week. He whispered, "Then I'll trouble my sister-in-law. I'll send Ye Yan's clothes and daily necessities over tomorrow." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1536. In addition to clothes and daily necessities, Yes Yangqian also sent Ye Yan's living expenses and food stamps. As a result, the left-behind child Yes Yangqian became a member of the Lu family. He happily went to and from school with Fu Bao every day. How could he be a bit unruly? He is clearly a polite, well-behaved, and very diligent child. However, when he got to school, he became the indifferent person he was before. Except for Fu Bao, he didn't give anyone a chance to get close to him. Feng Qingxiu collected the 100 yuan that Yes Yangqian returned to herself, lifted the cloth covering the sewing machine, and made clothes for Ye Yan. The fabric was brought from the capital, and the remittance coupons were not used in vain. Ye Yan's clothes were too small and shabby. One piece of clothing could have 4 or 5 patches. Yes Yangqian probably didn't even notice. Feng Qingxiu wanted to make 2 sets of autumn clothes for him before she officially joined the job. Fortunately, this sewing machine saves a lot of time. This sewing machine, which was not old and new, could not be taken away by Beer when he left the army compound, so Lu Zhang took it back at half the price. Fu Bao was able to quickly make good clothes on the first day of school, and this sewing machine was indispensable. Speaking of the clothes made by Chen Liang, Fu Bao and the triplets were unwilling to wear them a second time after wearing them once. Kaihu was very violent, and the children were always restless, especially Lu Erxian, who jumped up and down every day, making them covered in stinky sweat. When indeed Liang's clothes are soaked, they stick to the body and are not breathable, which is naturally very uncomfortable. What everyone likes is not necessarily the best. Fu Bao finally understood this truth. From then on, she no longer cared about what everyone else liked unless she really liked it. While Feng Qingxiu was trying on Ye Yan's clothes, she said, "It's good that you know. Each of you will never look back until you hit the wall." She had already said that Deliang's clothes were uncomfortable to wear, but she didn't believe her. Fu Bao's face was red and he was a little embarrassed. He said coquettishly, "Then I won't wear them anymore. What should I do with the clothes I just made? It's a pity to put them in a box. It's such a waste. It doesn't matter. I have given away all the clothes you wore when you were young. The clothes you don't wear will also be given to people who like them in the future." The diapers and clothes of the 5 children when they were young were basically given away. It was very big. Part of it is that the other party comes to ask for it. They don't dislike old clothes, but think that wearing old clothes is conducive to the growth of their children. In the old days, there were Beijiyi. Fu Bao breathed a sigh of relief. "Just don't waste it, just don't waste it." Through Deliang's incident, Feng Qingxiu gave her children a good education, then washed, dried and put away their unworn clothes and gave them to people in need. Things in life came to an end, and Feng Qingxiu officially joined the job. Since Feng Qingxiu was good at first aid, the military hospital placed her in the emergency department. On her first day of employment, she received a patient with an attack of disease and a seriously injured soldier. Without exception, she saved her from death. Pulled back. The person who was waiting to see Feng Qingxiu's joke suddenly lost his voice. Although many people say that Feng Qingxiu is a talented person and is proficient in Chinese and Western medicine, many people think that she is overpromoted. She is not that powerful. She can join the job and directly enjoy battalion-level treatment, all because of Lu Zhang. The emergency department was sometimes so busy that my feet hit the back of my head, and sometimes it was very leisurely, but Feng Qingxiu was never idle. She was still studying and asking for advice from the seniors in the hospital. This open-minded and eager-to-learn attitude greatly pleased the senior doctors in the military hospital, and she was willing to give them careful guidance until Feng Qingxiu received a response from the medical paper. 10,000 words are finished. We will continue our efforts tomorrow, and at the end of the month, we will pay off debts and get tickets for the game. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1537. The time between submission and now has been so long that Feng Qingxiu even forgot about submission. Still, she was delighted to hear back about her submission. This letter and 2 medical newspapers were forwarded from Chen Swiniang's home in the capital to the Wuchen army. When Feng Qingxiu submitted the article, she considered that she might leave the capital after graduation, so she left the addresses of Zheng Jinrui and Chen Swiniang as their contact addresses. Guoming was originally a good choice, but Guoming lived in a compound and served a group of old leaders. It would be more troublesome to send it to him. It would be sent to a fixed receiving location first, and then sent by the staff of that department. They are sorted, reviewed, and finally sent to the compound. Some letters sent to old leaders from the outside are also handled in this way. Newspapers and periodicals published 2 papers by Feng Qingxiu, and there was also a foreign exchange receipt in the letter, and the royalties were quite generous. Feng Qingxiu opened the letter. The content of her paper was probably that it was very excellent and well spoken. It caused a small sensation in the local medical community. The remaining papers will be published one after another, and the royalties will be paid to those who have published the papers. Newspapers and periodicals were sent to her one after another, and she was welcome to continue to contribute, exchange and learn. It was already late October when she received the letter. The weather had turned cooler and the mood of autumn was strong. She was not on duty that day, and Zule went to buy groceries, so she and Wanquilin took the triplets out to play, only to find that Sumaiziang was wearing a pair of brand new Lantang leather shoes and a brand new woolen coat with corduroy underneath. Feng Qingxiu had seen this kind of black trousers in department stores and friendship stores in the capital. The short version cost 77 yuan, not to mention the long version. Sister-in-law Qingxiu, do you think this woolen coat looks good? I went all the way to the capital to buy it. Sumaiziang spread her arms in front of Feng Qingxiu and spun around in a circle, with a strong sense of showing off. Feng Qingxiu nodded slightly. No wonder she hadn't seen Sumaiziang in the past few days. It's very beautiful. The price is also very beautiful. She likes to dress up, but is limited by the limitations of the current era. Because there are many elderly people and children in the family, the expenses are relatively high, and she does not want to be too ostentatious, so she rarely buys new clothes for herself. The quality of products in this era is excellent, and her figure has changed. Not too big, but the woolen coat I made when I got married can still be worn now. She would not look down upon Sumaiziang's behavior because she didn't buy it, but she would feel disdainful for her demanding huge compensation. Shenqing is actually at the deputy regiment level, with a monthly salary of 175 yuan, plus a 25% allowance. Sumaiziang has no job, but her outfit costs about 150 yuan. Lantang leather shoes usually cost more than 20 yuan a pair, but can be expensive at 30 or 40 yuan. Corduroy is also a high-end fabric. Maybe she was really short of money and went crazy, so Sumaiziang asked Ye Qianqian to claim 100 yuan. Next to Sumaiziang was a young woman with a round face and big eyes who looked pitiful. She said, "Of course it's pretty. This woolen coat is worth 100 yuan, and it's not even sold in Wuchen." "Right, Sister Maiziang." Sumaiziang hummed proudly and said to Feng Qingxiu, "Her name is Millie, and she is a revolutionary comrade of Battalion Commander Zhou." Millie, Feng Qingxiu thought of Mi Zili from the capital art troupe. "Hello, sister-in-law. I have wanted to visit my sister-in-law for a long time, but I have been delayed due to chores around the house." Mi Zili's attitude was particularly attentive, and her eyes were watery as if they were soaked in autumn water. Feng Qingxiu nodded slightly at her. "Hello, Comrade Millie, you guys talk first, we are taking the children over there." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1538. There are many children under school age in the Wuchen Army compound. The weather is not hot, and a large group of children of both sexes are playing outside. Lu Erxian has long been familiar with them, and he pulls Dun Dun and Zhuang Zhuang to get close. Feng Qingxiu followed and greeted several parents who were looking after their children. "Hello, sister-in-law." "Sister-in-law Qingxiu, aren't you on duty today?" Lu Zhang had the highest status in the Wuchen army. Of course, Feng Qingxiu was the first among the family members accompanying the army. Everyone who saw her smiled at her. Feng Qingxiu smiled and nodded. "Yeah, I'm not on duty today. I'm taking the kids out to play." Seeing the melancholy on Zhou Fei's mother Peng Aiheng's face, she asked, "Comrade Aiheng, are you encountering difficulties at home? Just tell us and we will help you find a solution." One of Feng Qingxiu's responsibilities is to solve problems for the families of the soldiers. Worrying about her eldest son getting a wife, Ding Min answered for her. Zhou Fei's eldest brother Zhou Cheng is honest, and doesn't talk much. He works in a machinery factory in the capital. He is 25 years old and has not yet mentioned a wife. Recently, I finally got married through the introduction of my relatives and friends, and the other party's family asked for 3 turns and 1 ring of 36 legs. Although there are relatively few cases of using marriage to compare in this era, it is just a few, not none, otherwise the saying 3 turns and 1 ring of 36 legs would not have spread. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu asked Peng Aiheng, without these things, would the woman not get married? Peng Aiheng nodded and sighed, my son doesn't live up to expectations, but he just likes this lesbian. He fell out with his father because of this. I'm so angry and hateful. Our family is not short of money. His father has been a soldier for so many years, and I have saved a lot of money. But without tickets or industrial vouchers, it is difficult to buy these things. So far, we have only asked someone to get a self-confidence ticket and a big ticket. Wardrobe tickets, that watch radio sewing machine, we can't get tickets at all. Feng Qingxiu listened carefully and said disapprovingly, you fell out with Battalion Commander Zhou over such a trivial matter, and you still expect him to be filial to you in the future? You should not continue to indulge. If the Lu family's children grew up like this, she would cut ties with them outright. When you become an adult, you can do whatever you like, do whatever you want, and if you want to buy 3 turn 1 sound 36 legs, just figure it out on your own. Fortunately, the children of the Lu family are very filial, and she has money to pay for her children after they work, so she is willing to help them prepare for their wedding. Even if they say they don't want half of Lu Tianwan and Guancheng's salary, the 2 brothers still remit the money on a monthly basis, and the 2 daughters-in-law also buy them things often. Peng Ai's eyes were a little red. His father and I said the same thing, but we couldn't stand their fuss and were embarrassed. Yesterday they came from the capital specifically for this matter, asking for money, tickets, and things. When they saw Su Comrade Mei Xiang was wearing a new woolen coat, and she asked us to buy one for her. If she didn't buy it, she wouldn't get married. She looked like she was determined to get married. Ding Min's face changed color. Aiheng, how come I heard you say this? What kind of person is Comrade Su Maixiang? Can we compare with her? Every month when I receive my salary, I will first focus on buying myself a new outfit. They won't have enough to eat in less than half a month. When our family eats meat, the 2 of them drink big lump porridge. You are such a bad daughter-in-law. You can barely tolerate asking for 3 turns and 1 ring. 36 legs. In this situation. On top of that, you also need a woolen coat worth hundreds of dollars, when the money comes from the strong wind. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1539. Peng Aiheng wiped the corners of her eyes, looking much older and haggard than Fu Bao did on his first day at school. Is your son rich? Feng Qingxiu suddenly asked. He said no, and we will pay for the wedding supplies, Peng Aiheng said, but I know this is half true and half false. He has been working for 7 years. He joined the machinery factory after my father's shift, and his salary increased from 20 to 20. It has increased to more than 40 yuan now. Because Lao Zhou has a monthly salary and the expenses for raising Zhou Fei are limited, we have not asked him for money, and we have not heard that he has bought any expensive items. He is the person we are talking to recently. His expenses were a bit high. He often went out to restaurants and watched movies. Even if he saved 5 yuan a month or 60 yuan a year, he could save several hundred yuan in 7 years. But he told us that he had no money. Such a son is really a bit unworthy of being a son of man. Feng Qingxiu shook her head. Comrade Aiheng, I did some calculations, 3 turns and 1 click, 36 legs, all made in China, costing at least 600 to 700 yuan, not to mention imported goods. We really can't buy domestic watches. I think they will probably ask for an imported watch, which is several times the price of a domestic one. Do you have to buy bedding and daily necessities for the wedding? It's also a big deal if you want another one. The long woolen coat Comrade Su Maixiang is wearing costs less than 1,000 yuan, so this marriage cannot be done. Peng Ai-hung said, with the tickets, it's more than 1,200 yuan. Lao Zhou and I calculated it carefully, because the woman's family still needs 188 yuan. In fact, it's just a gift, and she's afraid of being laughed at. They didn't say this word. You are so greedy, Ai-hung, are you stupid? You still want to get married, Ding Min said in disbelief. Yes, Comrade Ai-hung, if you agree to the current conditions, they will probably continue to push further and ask for other conditions in this era. It is not easy to find someone to take advantage of. The woman clearly wants to take advantage of the Zhou family, trying to this force overwhelms the Zhou family, and they have been running rampant from now on, Feng Qingxiu thought. Peng Ai-hung trembled all over and said with a sad face, what should we do? Feng Qingxiu didn't say anything. The best way was to refuse to agree or compromise and let them make trouble on their own. If the woman couldn't get what she wanted, she would probably break up with Zhou and continue to find another family to take advantage of. When getting married, the woman should be a little demanding but not too much. Whether these demands can be met will also reflect the man's attitude. If she really doesn't ask for anything, she will be looked down upon by her husband's family. It's okay if her husband is reliable. It doesn't matter if she gets married naked, but it will be miserable if she is unreliable. You have spent all your youth in vain and ended up not having a good death, but asking for too much is too much. Who is not raised by his parents? The object of Zhou Cheng's request was to have 36 legs, which was human nature. The request was a bit high, but not too much. Later, when she threatened not to get married and asked the Zhou family to buy her a woolen coat, it was really too much. Ding Min has a good relationship with Peng Ai-hung and said directly, then just hold off. Delay. Peng Ai-hung hesitated, worried that her son would sever the relationship with her husband. Of course it's just delaying. Don't agree to anything. Let them buy whatever they want. Don't you have bicycle tickets and locker tickets? Give them to them and let them buy them with their own money. There's no other way, Ding Min said simply, your son is so unfilial. If you still think about him, you will definitely be eaten to death in the future. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1540. Ding Min's statement coincided with Feng Qingxiu's thoughts, and she nodded to Peng Ai-hung. Comrade Ai-hung, there are some things that cannot be tolerated. One indulgence is equivalent to 100 indulgences in the future, Feng Qingxiu said to her slowly. Of course it ultimately depends on what you and Battalion Commander Zhou want. Ding Min and I comrades just talk about it casually. Ding Min reacted suddenly and said, yes, you and Lao Zhou have to make the decision on this matter. We outsiders are not in charge. What if Zhou Cheng and his partner break up, causing chaos in the Zhou family, or if Zhou Cheng cannot marry a wife in the future, and Camp Commander Zhou and Peng Ai-hung resent themselves for coming up with the idea? Peng Ai-hung patted her arm and sighed, I understand your good intentions. I will go back and ask Lao Zhou what he means. By the way, what's the woman's name? Feng Qingxiu asked. Peng Ai-hung replied, she is a female worker in a textile factory. Her name is Zheng Yuan. Her family is in the capital. She has a younger brother and a younger sister. They are advanced in thinking and actively respond to the policy of going to the mountains and rural areas. They are not in the capital. Feng Qingxiu sounded familiar, and suddenly said, do you know where her younger brothers and sisters are assigned? I didn't ask carefully. I only know that her brother is in the northeast, Peng Ai-hung said. Feng Qingxiu clapped her hands and said, I know who it is. Who? Ding Min and Peng Ai-hung asked in unison. Zheng Yuanyuan's sister is Zheng Huiwei and her brother is Zheng Daotao. One of them was assigned to Huihei City, which is our hometown. She is a very smart and capable girl. She was the first worker, peasant, and soldier college student. After graduation, she returned to our hometown. I heard Zheng Huiwei say her brother lives in a small mountain village in the northeast, and the two siblings often keep in touch. Comrade I Hung, what I want to tell you is that you should think carefully about your son's marriage. It was Zheng Yuanyuan who secretly married her in order to stay in the capital. The names of the younger siblings were reported. If Camp Commander Zhou and Peng I Hung still agree to their son marrying Zheng Yuanyuan, then they will be the ones with the problem. With such a greedy and selfish girl, whoever marries the other will be unlucky, and the whole family will probably be in trouble. Peng I Hung was shocked. Sister-in-law, are you telling the truth? Feng Qingxiu asked back, did Zheng Yuanyuan tell you that her sister has a better relationship with the girl from the big courtyard? Zheng Huiwei once said that her sister was often proud of this, and it seemed that the people who had a good relationship with Wu Xiaoxiao and others were like myself. Peng I Hung nodded and said, I did say it, several times, that her sister has a very good relationship with the military commander's daughter. The commander she was talking about is Commander Wu, and he has been transferred to the Northwest Military Region. Feng Qingxiu said, the girl's name is Wu Xiaoxiao. She has a very good relationship with my niece-in-law. We got married before her father was transferred. During my wedding, my niece-in-law took a lot of overseas remittance coupons from me to buy wedding supplies, so I was very impressed. Peng I Hung's face darkened. Old Joe has a day off today, I'll tell him. After saying that, she hurried home. Bad character and evil thoughts are more intolerable than greed. That eldest son of I Hung is really not a good guy. If you are ambitious, you won't embarrass your parents like this. Ding Min sighed, raised his hand and looked at his watch. Hey, it's almost noon, I have to cook. The kids will be out of school later. Feng Qingxiu went to pick up her daughter and Yayan, and met Su Maiziang who was picking up Shenfeng and showing off her new clothes. Su Maiziang's face suddenly changed when she saw the red woolen coat that Fu Bao was wearing. Compared with the bright red and bright woolen coat, her own woolen coat paled.